The haunted house. Adam's business had completely collapsed. Once a successful man in the city, he was now drowning in debt and abandoned by his partners. With no other choice, he returned to the village where he was born, to the old family house that had stood empty for more than 10 years. His mother had long passed away, and the house was decaying, covered in dust and the smell of rot, surrounded by weeds and silence. From the moment Adam stepped inside, he felt something cold and unfamiliar, as if the house itself was watching him. At first he blamed the creaking floors and slamming doors on the age of the building, but soon the nights became unbearable. He began hearing footsteps in the hallway, soft and deliberate, as if someone was walking just outside his room. The windows fogged over with streaks and strange finger-like marks, and in the muddy yard he saw footprints larger than any humans leading from the front door into the forest. Sometimes the wardrobe door would open slowly by itself, and whispers drifted out of the darkness. Adam felt a presence following him everywhere, a shadow that wasn't his own. One night he saw it clearly moving across the wall, approaching him even as he sat frozen in bed. He decided he had to leave. The next morning he packed his things, but his car wouldn't start no matter how many times he tried. At the station he was told train service had been suspended until further notice. Defeated, he returned to the house. That night the noises grew louder, the shadows darker, the whispers sharper. Sleep became impossible, his mind unraveling under the weight of fear. Desperate, he ordered a taxi from the city. When the car arrived he felt a surge of relief, certain he was finally free. But halfway down the road the driver lost control, and the car slammed into a tree. Adam woke up in the hospital, battered but alive. 2 weeks later he was discharged. When asked where to take him, he tried to name another place, but the only words that left his mouth were, "My house in the village." The ambulance brought him back. He stood before the old house once again, suitcase in hand, trembling as the windows glared back at him like dark eyes. Then, without anyone touching it, the front door creaked open slowly, as if inviting him inside. Adam stood there, staring in silence. The call at 3 a.m. It was 2:50 a.m. Lucas was sitting alone in his apartment in the center of the city. The rain outside tapped gently against the windows, and the streets glowed under dim, greenish streetlights. He couldn't sleep, his thoughts always heavier and darker than he showed to the world. Suddenly his phone rang. The screen lit up with John's name. "John. At this hour?" Lucas muttered. He answered. On the other end, a trembling, broken voice whispered, "Lucas, they're watching me. Don't tell anyone. Be careful." Then came strange static, faint whispers, and the sound of metal scraping before the line went dead. Lucas froze, staring at his phone. He immediately called back, but the automated message replied, "The number you are trying to reach is not available." The next morning at work, his colleague Michael approached him. "Hey, did you hear? John died last night. They found his car under the bridge." Lucas felt his chest tighten. "That's impossible, I spoke to him last night." Michael frowned. "No way, they say he crashed around 11 o'clock. Lucas's mind went blank. Who had he spoken to at 3 in the morning? That night, Lucas began noticing strange things. His apartment windows fogged up with the word "watching" appearing faintly. There were knocks on the door at night, but nobody outside. He received voice messages on his phone, whispers that sounded eerily like John. His girlfriend Emily tried to calm him down. "You're just exhausted. It's stress," she said. But the fear inside him kept growing. One evening, walking home, he heard footsteps behind him. When he quickened his pace, the footsteps quickened too. He spun around, no one was there. When he returned to his apartment, a business card lay on his desk. It was John's. On the back, written in red ink, "You're next." Lucas's fear twisted into something darker, a strange excitement. It felt as if someone was playing a game with him. Days later, neighbors called the police after hearing screams from his apartment. When they entered, the place was in chaos, walls covered in red writing, "John never left. John is here." Lucas was sitting by the window, smiling. His phone rang again, the screen glowing with John's name. The old hotel. Daniel had been driving for hours through the storm when his car broke down on a deserted road. Rain poured relentlessly and the wind howled through the trees. Desperate for shelter, he noticed a faint light in the distance and followed it until he came across an old hotel standing alone at the edge of the woods. Its windows glowed weakly as if waiting for him, and with nowhere else to go he stepped inside. The lobby smelled of dust and mildew, yet the reception bell worked when he rang it, and an old ledger sat open on the counter, his name already written inside though he had not touched the pen. Disturbed but exhausted, he took the key and walked toward his room. That night Daniel heard the whisper and quickly turned around, but no one was there. The reception hall stood silent with only the ticking of an old clock filling the air. His heart began to pound as he threw the key onto the counter and rushed to the door, but the entrance was locked tight. No matter how hard he pulled it wouldn't budge, and when he looked through the window the outside was wrong. The storm had passed yet the darkness remained, as if morning had never come. Footsteps echoed from the hallway above, slow and deliberate, pulling him toward the staircase. He climbed cautiously as one by one the doors along the corridor creaked open, each revealing only shadows and whispers that seemed to float out and cling to the walls, but no living figure ever appeared. Panic surged through him and he ran back to his room only to freeze when he saw the guest book lying open on his bed. Names were written inside that he had never seen before, and his own name, Daniel, was scrawled over and over again, some entries marked with red ink reading, "Checked out," alongside dates from more than a century ago. His vision blurred and the room spun until he collapsed, and when he opened his eyes he was no longer in the room but seated behind the reception desk, the air heavy with the scent of damp wood, and across from him stood a weary traveler dripping with rain, waiting for the pen to sign the book. Daniel looked down to see a brass key clenched in his own hand, and then the whisper returned, close to his ear, cold and inescapable, saying softly, "Now it's your turn."